Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments based on the scriptures of the scroll of the Lamb of God. The Ten Commandments written on tablets by the finger of the divine eternal Father. You children of the earth, promise before knowing a human life to fulfill in your simplicity feeling the highest morality that can be conceived, and to attend to your request, the Divine Father placed the Ten Commandments in human life. They represent and remind you on earth of the morality promised in the kingdom of heaven. You might be deceived by the fleeting comfort that money provides, thinking you had never studied my scriptures that could happen by failing to comply with the commandments in your daily life cannot be overlooked. Only the arrogant will come to know the power of God, which is first expressed through the living doctrines and then in nature. Every new law must be first thought and then executed. To do the positive will bring chaos to the world, as everyone will be deluded and many will take their own lives believing that the end of the world has come. No, children, there is not a such thing. What exists is the final judgment on a way life that is not in kingdom of heaven, that is not in my commandments, and that will be approved the human evolution. The commandments were given for everyone. They are the only ones that can unify the world. My divine commandments do not divide the world. Only the divine commandments could and still save the world from the weeping incarnation society that is approaching. First commandment: you should love your God and Creator above all the things, and your neighbors as yourself. Second commandment: you should not worship on any image, temple, or likenesses of any kind. Third commandment: you should not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not behold him in guiltiness who takes his name in vain. Fourth commandment: remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you should labor and do all your work, but the 7 days is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Fifth commandment: honor your father and your mother, so that your days might be prolonged in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Sixth commandment: you shall not kill. Seventh commandment: you shall not fornicate, you shall not commit adultery. Eighth commandment: you shall not steal. Ninth commandment: you shall not bear false witnesses against your neighbor, no lies. 10th commandment: you should not covet your neighbor's gods. Based on the Holy Scriptures, Exodus chapter 20, Deuteronomy chapter 5. The demanding days of the Creator bear the self-equality to degree unknown to you. This equality is represented in the Ten Commandments. Where did you get the word private? Nothing is private in the nature. The divine root gives and takes away, meaning that every divine commandments have been observing the actions of every human, him bring through the centuries. They are living words of God, who is everywhere in the highest morality that the human mind can imagine. Such morality is represented in my commandments. There is no other knowledge in this world that surpasses them. My divine commandment teach equality. Inequality that is respected will have made the earth paradise. The Creator is infinite and it represents in all the things. Yet His commandments are the supreme because they emerge from His free will. The divine morality of my divine commandments was created so that universal communist government could arise on earth, one single government and one single God. Is there any other doctrine more humble than the which they share material things in common? The hour has come when all the power that is not on the eternal Father will fall by His first own law. With the measurement they use, they will measure. The measure is the commandment, and by the commandments they will fall. Right, Alpha and Omega. Lord, you blew the winds, and the sea is your child. Who is like you, O Lord? From the eternal to the eternity, you are the voice of God. Holy readings. Exodus chapter 31, verses 36. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Behold, I have called by my name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom, in intelligence, in knowing how to make every work of art, in work of gold, silver, and bronze, in paintwork with the precious stones, in work of the workers and carvers, in all the artist's idea. And Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' servant, was young, and did not depart from the tabernacle. 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verses 19-21. And David gave to his son Solomon the design of the court and the tabernacle of the congregation, of the chambers of his upper rooms, of his inner chambers, and is in the chambers and design of all the Spirit of God had caused him to conceive, for the court of the house of the Lord, for the chambers of the house, for the treasures of the house of God, and for the treasures of the ark. Matthew chapter 19, verses 26. And Jesus looked at them and said to them, With the man this is impossible, but with God everything is possible. What's the word to come? Divine title 1539. Flying saucers, when created in the worlds and the suns, make the infinity solar parents come from four galaxies in development of his own construction, in infinity presentations of the infinity genius engineers, solar spaceships specialized happens, the materialist of the channel ships is magnetically saturated by the solar fluids of the solar parents. The matter molecule remains with the eternal understanding of being mentally commanded by the solar crew. Telepathy scroll. Divine title. Constructions of the flying saucers continue. The living numbers participates in the constructions of a flying saucer. In the constructions of the flying saucers, living numbers appear with infinite numeral geometries. The shape of each number depends on its own numeral evolution. The solar bird chooses the infinite request for reincarnation of the numeral galaxies, just as it chooses that of the molecules. If a human creature were to witness this, he will see nothing, because its penetration vibration is microscopic. The human mind and wisdom and vision do not penetrate the invisible. They do not know the macrocosm that exists within the microcosm. In the construction of flying saucers, the greater the power of the solar bird, the more infinitely microscopic and invisible the construction of the saucers is. The conglomerates of elements that participate in becoming celestial ship do so by submitting the mass to the microscopic mental fibers to the solar parents. The lovely subordinates humbly submit to the divine command of the greatest. This is not about forceful submission. Here, it is seen that divine power grants of the new unknown sciences. There is not necessary to talk or convince, because Thereby looking you choose for the human creature to see the construction of the flying saucers, the solar parents would also have to become a little dust. In the macrocosm called Kingdom of Heaven, nothing has limits, and the limit in self found at the same time is only limited on dimensions. More there, the transformable is done at the speed of lighting. The human creatures, in his own development, needs a certain time. It does not need there. That is a slow growth that becomes intensely, and the instance becomes slow. The pulse becomes thunderous noise, and the noise of thunder becomes a pulse. The development of the molecule, with its microbe limited, becomes a colossal planet molecule in all imaginable degrees of the size. When the solar parent's fluid is spilled in flying source, they fix the corresponding dimension and the time of doing so. They do so in thinking about the infinity teachings of the universe that observes them. They know nothing hidden exists in the kingdom of heaven, and they should hide nothing, and they know that the hoof only falls into a molecule of the occultism. It does not re-enter on the kingdom of heaven. They know that every molecule and every microscopic speak and spark and express itself to the eternal in respective law. During the divine process of materialization and the fact, the solar parents are all the times in eternal contact with the Divine Father Jehovah. Although most of the time the Divine Father Jehovah does not let himself be seen, they know that he always watches them, whether transforms into an element itself, whether observing them in some sort of television screen in some world or in flying saucers. The divine means available to the eternal had no limits. The divine appearances of the Father Jehovah, always occurring unexpectedly and instantly, fills everyone with surprise and unprecedented joy. The living number, like everything that existed and it will exist, conserve and converse with everything about the everything of the expansive thinking universe. This infinity conversations occurs in infinity forms. One of them is because the solar television screens, which also have all the planets and suns, which are not in tested laws, every planetary of solar wiggling, which did not ask for a proof of light in a certain moment, it is developing in time, communicates at all the moments with the all happening in the rest of the universe. For known and unknown galaxies, news arise, and witnesses flying saucers, constructions forever and ever. Solar television was made to know the triumph of the word air as the book of light, because on universal televisions, forms and scenes from other lives are seen. During the construction of the flying saucers, infinity familiars of the living numbers and molecules dismissed them by the divine universal telepathy, and they watched them on wonderful solar television. This television, like a creation, has an unknown and limit, and it sits in the macroscopes and the microcosm. The colossal suns known as the microbes know it, and it's certainly one of the infinity wonders of the eternal Divine Father Jehovah. What a difference exists between Earth television and the solar television? The difference is infinity sun. Earth's television is a product of the certain elements of Earth, and I truly tell you, son, that nothing in this television will remain. In the millennium of peace that comes from the Word, the firstborn Son, in His divine glory and majesty, will create solar television on Earth. Television that has no end, and it will cost nothing. With the solar television, it's almost not necessary to leave the planet to discover other worlds. The world of the proof of light, you will be fascinated by observing that you never imagined seeing, and I will tell you, son, that it's easier for the earth to age and disappear, and not for the solar television. What comes from the God is eternal. What comes from their children is ephemeral. The Alpha and Omega sons, when creating the earth, asked the Divine Father Jehovah to create a world with physical limits. The only thing that it was eternal were the thinking spirits, who asked to know the human life, and they asked for it as a proof because they knew nothing about such a way of life. This is what I mean to some when I said to the world of the trials, the earth will pass, but my words will not pass. The latter mean that a new planetary doctrine will give the world a proof with the corresponding and it corresponds to the same divine final judgment. Let's continue some with the constructions of the flying saucers. Divine will be done, Divine Father Jehovah. When a living number is reincarnated as a flying saucer, they choose to will while they conserving the free will of numbers, just among themselves, they make divine alliances of coexistences in the galaxy called the flying saucer. This is how families are born. Others decide to start alone in living numbers in the same lots of the fulfilled that were given to men, and to a man that is to live in what they ask to know, with the highest morality that the human mind can imagine. Living numbers also ask for divine numeral gospels, just as the human race requests, because no one is disinherited. Everyone asks to Divine Father Jehovah to know the quality in their respective laws of life. The common lot of daily living in the kingdom of heaven, not even the living number asks for what is unequal, because they know that whoever allows themselves to be influenced by what is unequal on the distant planets of testing will not re-enter in kingdom of heaven. The living numbers that asked for galactic experience in the flying saucers, there were many who were humans and animal creatures on other planets. This happens when by virtue of their spiritual free will, they decide to know the world of the flesh because they did not know it. And asking to be creatures of flesh, they also ask to know the sensation of numbers. Because they also did not know the sensation, many human creatures that are currently on earth were living numbers is flying saucers. It is because on his lot of the spiritual path that many get excited just by hearing the stories of the appearances of the flying saucers on earth. In his memory, that is the word light down, this is why they was reading, what it's above is equal to what's below. Many of those on earth were like those of flying saucers and like those in other worlds. Free will is infinity in his own desires when it decides to know what it does know. Once known what he did not know, he asked to know again. The plurality of being of the infinite form of creature is due to the fact that nothing is impossible for God. The divine creator offers his children as many lives as they desire. Only one must not violate his divine laws. Not even in a molecule, because it's infinitely just. Human creatures in the year 2001 will see the solar television, and if they will see their past reincarnation, they will recognize themselves consciously and intuition and explode when they recognize themselves in what they were. And I will tell you, son, that those who deny being born again will be filled with the greatest shame of their lives, because they deny during the shelf of life what they did not know. Those who mock at the law of reincarnation will wish to die before the infinite shame that will take hold of them. The living numbers, by creating a family, its own reincarnation expands its numeral inherent chance and multiplies by his own will. The numeral families and the families of the molecules are a glorious and eternal alliances in the living universe of Divine Father Jehovah. It could be said that there is no planet in the cosmos that it does not know his infinity alliances. Everyone turns to them to learn about his own way of life. The living numbers is linear fire. It is divine original geometry, that is to say, the solar line not having any limit. The living number is a microscopic part of it. The original inherent in your past initiated by a pair of suns, and they, at the same time, from another pair of suns. Each spirit determines his own solar line by virtue of his own spiritual free will, by choosing again new life. Without taking into account the other solar lines, which also by virtue of their free will determine their own destinies. When they think spirits violate the law that in self-request in the kingdom of heaven, the spirit distorts his own place of origin, and is not received as such a place. The living numbers, the molecules, the virtues, the sensations, the ideas that generate during the trial of life, complains against him, and asks divine judgment from God. And this judgment is a whole upon the whole. It is the same divine judgment that the earth requested. The all upon it is all of himself was expressed by the words that it said. And there will be a divine judgment upon all the things, upon all things, and it's everything upon everything. The living number also participates in the divine final judgment as the elements of all the nature that also participates upon the all. So space and infinity degree human knowledge himself to its infinity. So this is why it's nothing imaginable is left to chance in the divine judgments of God. In the constructions of every flying saucer, whether it's a saucer hierarchy, the living number and the molecule are always the alpha and the omega in their own galactic existence. The living number participates in every event that occurs in these solar ships. The numbers are wishes to everything about everything of the flying saucers, because there is no one who does not need them. The living number is in every intelligence of every creature in the universe, because by divine calculation, every intelligence and every planet was created. The divine number and living number being in every imaginable is also in the calculation of the mental fat of every human creature, of everyone who generates ideas, moment by moment, and there will be no one who will not resort to its living numbers when each of determines to calculate its own heavenly score, earned in the test of light. The whole upon the whole is the judged second molecule. It is judged by the number of ideas. So within 1 second and less than 1 second, the mental action of each one is measured in the divine judgment of God per second, and the action of matter is measured in the divine final judgment by molecule. This divine law has an equal everything upon everything with everything about everything of the construction of the flying saucer. We have the approach to planet Earth just as a living number united with a molecule to the flying saucer experience. So it's also the living number that unites with the human mind did so by molecule of the flesh or the whole over the whole of itself. What it's upon, it's equal to what's below. The living number of the flying saucer has a greater hierarchy of power than the living number of the earth. That is why number upon judge the numbers below, coming from the macrocosm, judge one for the microcosm. The one that is greater in numeral hierarchy means that such a galactic number has lived more than knows more. Knows more has greater creative birth than a greater power of transformation in others. And his own galactic power demands subordination and subordinated to a power that transforms other, run parallel to the solar line. When the spirit requests a divine fine judgment to his own planetary life assistant, chosen by his own free will, the word of the trial of life, by not including equality in his own laws, and balance his own living numbers, and its equality and balance their 318 virtues of their own thinking, and all the molecules of the flesh and their own bodies, the everything upon the everything on self was unbalanced, and everything thinking being that becomes unbalanced due to the violations of God's laws, ends up with the divine final judgment, with the psychology of the crying and garnishing of tea, and the word of trial have now become unbalanced. His creatures will have to be psychology of serenity to face a divine judgment, which they himself request in the kingdom of heavens. The living numbers, lawfully subordinated to the Son of God, would treat the children of his own world equals, and these children had included equality in their own laws of light system. The test of light consists of making the planet that it was unknown a microscopic kingdom of heaven. In the test of light, it was necessary to imitate the divine equality of the kingdom of heaven. Because by imitating the kingdom on distant planets, it's easier to re-enter in the kingdom. The supreme warning for this world of trial was the Satan divide to rule, and the strange and unknown system of light arising from the strange laws of God. Used to a strange vision to be able to regain and the track of light, one did not have to fall asleep so as not to be surprised by Satan. That is why it was written, every spirit sleeps. Satan, who had taken to the form of light system, could not be forgiven every molecule influence of the strange division, because it is enough to know in oneself the strange influence of division, and the spirit does not enter in kingdom of heaven, because all of himself complains to God that he was influenced by something that he did not ask for in the kingdom of heaven. And among the infinity of curses that the living numbers and the molecules, that it happens that since everyone was given free will in their respective laws, a living number has a free will, different from another living number, and that a molecule a different one from another molecule, and having the all upon the all of free will, trillions of them forget and trillions do not forgive. When one forgets, the Divine Father Jehovah also forgets, because forgiveness was ordered. And it's easier for one to be forgiven in divine judgment than to forget another in trials of life, to be forgiven to one that forgave no one. The living numbers is also the element of the nature, and being this element, the living number participates in all the events of the divine judgment, in the great and the small. The living number participates in the resurrection of the flesh. And those who do not believe in self, in sin, the match will not be resurrected. Because in order to receive a divine prize, you have to believe and have to faith in the prize. The living number, like all the living elements of God, will be read by every mind that instance of the resurrection of the all of flesh, so the human creature will not fall into strange disbelief that everyone must have believed and in deep during the childhood life. The divine term, God is infinity. Infinity means that everything imaginable comes true. The living number, when they read in the mind, they will read that his own the spirit of childhood light, the worth of God, who is his own God, and he will now want to lend his divine help to eternalize a denier of the eternal. This divine law of justice will make millions and millions being cried who did not believe or care to believe during the childhood life, and it was enough to believe that everyone on his own eternity to receive eternity. The living number and all the elements of the nature will converse telepathically with the firstborn son, just as happens in the past. From the body of the Son of God, infinity and microscopic solar cores will emerge, whose ends will be united to the earth, to each molecule of the elements of the earth. And in the midst of them, the living number, this lot is made to midst of the sunshine. The utmost spirit acts as a communicating bridge. As far as the physical concern is what they within the reach up to the eyes. The living numbers in each molecule of each element, the resurrections of the flesh is a divine law that is fulfilled in infinity wars, and infinity numbers had it, announced it into divine planetary gospel. The living number acts in psychology of numerical balance, and harmonizes with all concept of calculation, with all minds possessed in the self, and resurrection of all the flesh is a divine process in which everything upon everything of each one is prepared to adapt to go at any point of the universe. It is the eternal flesh of every blessed person, the living number of the current human flesh, in a child of number that just as the Spirit is, the tests are requested and the rewards of resurrections of oneself are granted. The living number links each molecule of the eternalized flesh by divine solar birth. Within the infinity, the child geniuses of the new world will not need spacesuits to travel to other planets except when they impose voluntary tests on themselves to gain heavenly points. This is called in the kingdom of heaven increasing the divine addition to the divine Father. In every judgment of every glory, spiritual tests are always asked for, overcoming difficulties of any kind that constitute the proof. The living numbers being in everything created is also all the tests that the creatures of the universe ask for. And is the Alpha and Omega of everything taught and everything created, the living number that each one asks for himself makes a common destiny with the Spirit. This means that according to the morality lived by every thinking spirit, this is the degree of happiness that a wall fills over the numeral whole. What the spirits do in their own respective hierarchies of what they are, affect molecule by molecules in their living whole. Morality is a form of magnetism which a must have created itself in the test of life. It is the Christian self which magnetizes with its own magnetism called moral in order to achieve the highest morality that the mind can imagine. One had to saturate oneself with the divine psychology of the divine gospel of the Father Jehovah and his divine commandments. The divine commandments represent for those who ask for the proof of life the daily morality of their existences, moment by moment, idea by idea, molecule by molecule, second by second, and each of these microscopic ones there is a living number, seeing that it was all above is equal to what's below. The solar crew members of the flying saucers also had to comply with the divine gospel of the holy scriptures, corresponding to their solar hierarchies, just as the spirit on earth do in their human hierarchy. The living number having infinity cause, just as the human spirit has, also manifests itself in infinity living hierarchies. There are living numbers and hierarchies in the macrocosm and the hierarchies on the microcosm. The living number makes the divine alliances of light with microbes and with the giant nature of the universe. The living numbers radiation the molecules and the virtues. A mental magnetism in which it has a living loss, it recognizes its solar father and is the law of the attraction between what is what and what will be. This sensation is a divine request for a reunion between a solar father and children. This gives rise in the world of trial and the given moment to divine law of the believing universe of God being known, and is the beginning of the greatest revolution of respective planet. And according to the thinking psychology that the creature's experiences and knew during the trials of life, that is so the creation and reaction to the new law. On the test planet Earth, the mental reaction of his creatures will be crying and garnishing of teeth. This is called in Kingdom of Heaven mental judgment. According to your own thinking, the strange human psychology did not deepen in the concept of God. It could be do everything by human psychology, made of the infinity a mute or contemplative psychology. This primitivism that did not allow him for his sciences, which should have links to his own system of life. With infinity itself, the human creature was divided and distorted in a microscopic present, and earned by the destiny that will be called by the creatures of the future, the twilight of the strange world of the child, that even his own last time after his fall doubted in the divine revelation sent by divine Father Jehovah. And that himself requested in Kingdom of Heaven a strange world that his own fall that occurred likewise that was instantly by instant, because moment by moment it was entertained by all the strange illusion to temporary position. The living number was also excited and divided by the Spirit to who, and it was momentarily united for an instant called life. This strange illusion and division is paid for in divine final judgments as follows. 3/4 of the divine judgment falls on the creators and sustainers of the strange and unknown system of light, arising from the strange lots of gold. And 1/4 of divine judgment falls on the sinners who were forced to live in the strange system of light, which they did not ask from God in the kingdom of heaven, because nothing unjust is asked of God. In the kingdom of heaven, what is not written in the kingdom is called strange, and the so-called capital lesson is that what is not written, because no one asked for it. The living number, when reincarnating, whether in the construction of the flying source, or whether in planets or sun, or in creatures, does not do so by asking for numerical equality. Just as human spirits ask for spiritual equality, no one asks God for what's unequal, because it's unknown that such a request is a strange injustice, which has no meaning in the divine law of love of the divine Father Jehovah. The living number, in his free will of number, complains and expresses himself before God, that it was influenced by something unknown, that is a living number did not ask for. The test of life consists of preserving the same innocence which with the one had led in the kingdom of heaven, and the living number in the midst of crying act and acclaimed its original innocence. Here's the drama that occurs in the test of life, to trillions of molecules of flesh and ideas, that all demand and ask for justice against those guilties and on their own dramas. Because without the original innocence given by the kingdom of the heaven, one does not enter in kingdom again. This law was announced to the world of trials in the divine parole, that it says, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The living number in the final judgment will also ask to choose to those who divide is in concept of God, is also be divided and confused in this world and in other worlds, because every time every spirit asks to be born again to know a new life, and it does so take into account its previous judgment that it corresponds to other existences, which is fulfilled in other requests for life. The depth of every spirit, like the prize won, has no limit, because having come out of God, and it was taught that it was God was infinity. And cause being infinity, the limit does not exist in any imaginable way, neither in the lots of darkness nor on the lots of the light. The living number is also behaves infinitely, because the infinity on which its pattern was created by the same God. The living number, having infinity lot, expands hierarchically, just as expansively thinking of the universe expands. The expansion of the microscopic becomes the same to happen with the gigantic. What is above is equal to what's below. What is outside obeys the same law as what's inside. The whole upon the whole expands, starting from itself and succeeding in infinity variable, in which the microscopic characteristics of the development of the variable expands and become the universes that will never have limits, and it happened that each one itself constitutes the eternal moment of the eternal itself, lived by inheritance and by expansive creation, new eternal heavens, everything that it will be is, and is gone. Absolutely everything came out of itself. What it was constitute the most perfect measurements of the divine justice of God. Each reincarnation of being born again is a new starting point that it will give rise to other infinite starting points. The starting points in the human creature correspond in the human to the same number of the flesh molecules that each human body possesses. Each reincarnation is a new starting point and is a new image of God, in this image of likenesses of God, every creature in the universe, because they all came from the same God. The living number is also the image and likenesses of God. Everything is upon everything, because no one is the singularity, having to come from the same God alone. The living number, when reincarnated in flying saucers, that's what thinking about free will. The union places himself in a new world, which is all the time he will be receiving orders from many solar parents. The living number, like the living molecule, unites it to a solar bird. Thus, to willing will be the moment by moment, a flying saucer, just as human beings is joining the planet Earth to know the world of the flesh. This is what it was written. The word became flesh. What is done comes out of oneself and becomes requested made to God. The living number, by participating in all the bands of light, that's to adjust to the band, feel, see, and expand. In all in the one moment in which the human spirit generates idea, the living number penetrates them like someone who's submerged in an ocean. This ocean is made out to all the magnetism of sensation which the spirit has to know in the test of life. The behavior of the living numbers is equal to the behavior of the spirit. In the human dimension, what happens inside itself is a replica of what happens outside. The living number of a flying saucer is also influenced by what the solar parents do and think. This means that the solar parents are also exposed to divine judgments of God. The solar judgment is not the same as the human judgment, because the power of the word does not have the same science. The living number act by magnetism, love, and hierarchy. Within everything upon everything, there are infinity hierarchies of everything. Microscopic dimension within the microscopic. This explains the concept that each one has of the different measurements and mental capacities. The mental is expressed by hierarchy of the understanding, and this understanding varies in the measurement with which events occur, moment by moment. The living number, with all the virtues of thinking, does not let himself be seen, but rather lets himself to be felt. In the flying sources, in all the times occurs in the moment in which events occur. The solar mind has a greater number of dimensions because its sciences is greater and being older. They have a greater power in the dimension of the worlds they visit. No solar father encompasses everything, only the divine Father Jehovah encompasses everything. But the power of the solar firstborn is what which follow after the Father Jehovah. The infinity hierarchies of the universe that have no end know this cosmic law. The living number is also firstborn power to his own respective numerical philosophy. The everything about everything is represented in all the infinity hierarchies of the universe because no one is disintegrated in God's creation. The living number participates in a flying saucer in every event that occurs inside or outside the ship. The numbers are consulted as the whole is consulted upon the whole. The flying saucers, we see lots that amaze. Within the ship, the divine judgment and destinies of the infinity planets that are reading that there will be a divine and eternal communication with the kingdom of heaven. What is done in the kingdom of heaven is also done in flying saucers. The living number participates in everything that it shall happen in the future events on the planet's sun, or any other infinity creations in flying saucers. Everyone has obligations in their own hierarchies. The Alpha and Omega of his divine philosophies encompass with cessation to know and unknown, in which unknown laws are discovered. Traveling through universe without limits is his finding experiences also without limits. What is unknown to the constitutes to bring happiness, because everyone tries to expand into the unknown worlds. The teachings and the sciences that they live in their respective kingdoms of heaven. Managing transforms a world that violates God's divine law into supreme happiness for them. In place such a world of divine faith of the eternal. The latter is an immortal term that is heard throughout the infinity universe. This light corresponds to those who visit the worlds of the darkness and light, and it happens that many worlds of the light fall into darkness because they do not know or they don't want to be overcome their pride is complex. The latest is in the case of Earth, a proof of light planet. His creatures who ask to know a way of life to be able to get rid of their privatism, they now want to get rid of the strange complex of using force for daily coexistences. They got many centuries for this, and they still not changed. The divine final judgment surprised them without them having yet gotten rid of such a strange complex. This strange complex that it was promised to God to defeat him in the test of light is what it will be filled with the firstborn solar son Christ with the divine wrath. Because no one asked Father Jehovah to use force in the trials of light, the living numbers act in every anger of the divine solar majesty. And numerous angers causes planetary cataclysms. The oceans of the planet will overflow when the Son of God is filled with anger. You've been seeing the strange military barrack where the children of God were taught to kill. The living numbers that it is the balance of everything. When they feel the anger of their solar father, obey the anger of the Father. They are simultaneous and instantaneous to the divine character of the divine solar firstborn. The living numbers will be understood by the world of trial, with tears and joys, because the living numbers also participate in every prize won by the light, and it has its own lot that it was written, "For my shade you will weep, and for my shade you will be recognized." And it was the cause that there will be provoked integration of the firstborn son with his solar lot in the future reincarnation as judge of the divine final judgment. The living numbers of the flying saucers join the living numbers to all upon all of the solar fathers. His immense power has no equal, and all the nature is locally subordinated to the divine commands of the solar firstborn Father. The intervention of the flying saucers in the divine final judgments was announced in the Gospel of the Father Jehovah, that it was written, "Signs in the heaven, the entire world of the test of light will be observing space, and it has never observed it before, because with your own eyes you will see the infinity fleets of the flying saucers of the most variety galactic hierarchies. The living numbers is infinitely linked to all the molecules of the nature by infinity solar cores, forming whole upon the whole. In everything, the emotional in thinking beings is also interviewed and linked to the molecules of the atmosphere, and this to the molecules of the elements of the nature in the divine final judgment. In the era of the crying garnishes of sea, everything, molecularly speaking, will be exploded at the sentimentally such as has never seen or will be seen on this earth. The living number, when unbalanced due to the violations of the word of proof, instantly cries out of his injustice, and since its laws penetrating at the same time expansive it reaches all consciousness, and reaching all the consciousnesses in the terminus the greatest chance that the whole are called revolution. Repentance for the world of trial causes a new custom to emerge, which causes fear to those who were accustomed to teaching immortal custom. Among the last, that it was strange customs to the father children killing themselves. For causes unknown to the kingdom of heaven, the only cause that in the kingdom of God was and is not to kill or to order to be killed or killed oneself. The limit number and his free will of the number will ask the Son of God that those to command and taught to others how to kill, such receive death in the same way, because the living numbers fulfill the divine paroles and the divine laws, which is the trial were asked for as proof, was one of them that says, within the root with which you measure others, so you will be measured, which means sensation that if wished for others, you receive one yourself sensation for sensation. This causes the so-called rich who emerge during the strange world that emerge from the strange laws of the goal to remain in the greatest poverty that any mind can imagine, and this is the one to the trust of crying in God nations of sea, to those who during the development of their own lives of trial heeded the divine gospel of God might be well not be left them in the misery, because the living number, the illustration towards that of God, will be defense to the divine final judgment. Letter by letter, they will be defended, and this defense will be greatest lifetime in the line of thinking creature, because the living number finds in the highest hierarchy of his reincarnation in the divine gospel of God. Because what is of God has no limit. He who clings to the divine seal of God is saved in his error. Right, Alpha and Omega. Thank you, listener. For more about this content, please feel free to visit our website at telepathicreading.com, where you can find more content for your experiences.